Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you with us. Thanks for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning. If you're noticing this plastic here, you're going to see this plexiglass stuff in today's show. What it does is, since we're going to sit here and talk for 90 minutes, it might help to cut down some of the stuff that floats in the air while we talk. So it's for our safety. The other thing it does, though, is because we've put it up, it allows us to have 3 people on the desk again. So we're going to have more of a conversation like the old style shows before COVID hit. So if you look at it and say, that looks funny, I know it looks funny, deal with it. Thank you for joining us. Let's get into the show. First segment brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. Need to get rid of some old furniture? Order a driveway dumpster from Junk Be Gone. Need someone to demolish a shed or tow away a boat from your property? Call Junk Be Gone. One of the absolute best companies in Knoxville, locally owned, family owned, junkbegone.biz to learn more. You name it, they can do it, right down to shredding for your office. They do it all. Junk Be Gone. All right, let's welcome in the rest of the panel. We're all separate here. It's like it's kind of like a 50s game show where we've got the soundproof booths. We have right here Josh Ward from WNML. Next to him, Mike Strange, longtime sports writer, Hall of Fame sports writer in the state of Tennessee. And down at the far end, we have Vince Ferrara, of course, from WNML, just like Josh. Guys, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
2 big pieces of news from UT talking about their roster this week. The first one is Austin Pope, tight end, who was the lead blocker on so many running plays last year. He had surgery this week to alleviate a herniated disc in his back. There is no timetable officially on when he is expected back, but the guess is this will not be a quick turnaround. In terms of preparing for the season, guys, it's a hit at a position where you didn't have a lot of depth. Talk to me about the impact of losing Austin Pope.
It could be significant. Pope was a guy who was expected to kind of carry a huge role within the offense. With Domwood Anderson already gone as a senior on last year's team, Pope could have seen more of an expansion in the passing game, and that was a possibility. But as John mentioned, his role in the running game, follow 81. And I think that was going to carry over this year with Ty Chandler and Eric Gray expected to play a big role. So you have a number of players in that tight end room, but even with Pope healthy, there were concerns about, okay, who else can play? Now a number of guys are going to have to step up.
And who are they? It could be Princeton Fant, Jordan Allen moved over from linebacker, get a couple of redshirt freshmen that they like. So, but nobody that's played anywhere the number of snaps that Austin Pope had.
Yeah. The only other tight end is Jacob Warren, who's a local product that's been around, but he's got a great body and what looks like could be a physique that could be successful as a two-way tight end, but we hadn't really seen that from him as of yet. And it really puts a burden on UT because they were looking for that complete tight end. Austin Pope has been a terrific blocking tight end, but you didn't want to be scheme specific with your personnel. You wanted someone to where you could change things up and not identify what you were going to do. So having a pass catcher to replace Domwood Anderson has been something I think they were looking for anyway. Now you take out your blocking option, and it's really going to put, I think, more of a burden on the receivers, the running backs, and then Jim Chaney to scheme around not having Pope, especially in the blocking game.
Yeah, and I think early in the season, and when we're doing one of these topics, let's assume you're going to have a season and an early season and everything else. Early on, when you've got so many new receivers out there, and you've got a quarterback in Jarrett Garantano who is hot and cold, my thoughts were going into the season with that new and improved offensive line, you're probably going to lean more on your run game, especially with the way that Eric Gray came on late in the season. Without Austin Pope, that is a serious hit in terms of leaning on your run game while you get your pass game up and running. So that is a big hit for Tennessee. Another one, happened on the defensive side of the ball this week. Jeremy Pruitt made a quick decision regarding Emmett Gooden. He was arrested Thursday night on a charge of felony aggravated domestic assault. Gooden was dismissed the next day after missing the year with an injury last year when he was expected to be the Vols' best defensive lineman. He was coming back this year, and I think a lot of us penciled in, the defensive line last year, by the end of the year, was overperforming. It hit better than we expected it to. But you still thought this was probably going to be the cream of the crop. And now you're without, you're probably your best defensive lineman going into the season.
Well, he was a guy that when you're lacking star power at that position, a lot of hardworking guys, great rotation, much improved in that area, but guys know where their gaps, things like that. But they need stars to develop on that D-line, and he was as good a candidate as there was among the guys that you know of that were returning. So it's a blow there. I mean, you have Kingston Harris and Karat Garland, and you're hoping that Elijah Simmons comes through, but that's a big piece. His versatility and the flash that he showed 2 years ago. Only one start, but I think there was still a lot of promise there, and it's probably going to put more of an emphasis on some of those freshmen like Dominic Bailey and others maybe to see what they can do.
I'll be Pollyanna and say, well, the good spin on it, you didn't have him last year, so you're not losing anything that you had last year. That's my contribution.
Positive spin.
Yeah, it is at least a lot easier to answer the question, who replaces him, as opposed to the Austin Pope question, because the answer is just everybody who did it a year ago. Right. So we can answer that way, but as Vince was also saying, where's the star power? Maybe Aubrey Solomon takes a leap this year. Maybe Greg Emerson continues to develop, and he looks like the guy that was highly touted coming in, where you're seeing an individual player stand out. But here's what I'm doing. I'm just running through the list of players. So I wonder, does a freshman emerge? Is there one of Tyler Barron, Dominic Bailey, who did enroll in the spring semester? Amari Thomas is a very highly touted player from Memphis. Does one of those freshmen start to emerge, maybe not as a leader of the defensive line, but another guy you can plug in there and as the season goes along can be a difference maker on certain plays? Because Gooden is a guy I think they were hoping could do that probably right away.
One good thing about this group, John, real quick, is they have a lot of guys that can slide from end to tackle. So they're not lacking in numbers or options. The question is, do they have that level of quality to be difference makers inside like they were hoping to advance that group to?
Right, and while you're still building the program, you don't like losing bodies. No one does, but Tennessee trying to get over that hump, they're not really to the point where you're Alabama and you go, oh, he's down, okay, we can put this guy in here. You're still trying to – you're making chicken salad in some places still. Mm-hmm. So these kind of hits where you lose somebody that you're counting on, it's a hit. I mean, there's no way around it. Jeremy Pruitt seems to be very quick on the discipline front when it comes to domestic assault and violent issues. I always say on this show, I've said it for 15 years, I'm a believer in second chances and third chances and fourth chances, except when it comes to the violent issues. That's a little different. Pruitt makes a quick cut here. You could say that this might be impacted by the fact they needed to get down to 85 anyway, but I think he's shown already he doesn't have a real tolerance for this stuff, and I think that's a good thing.
Definitely. I think what it also says is they must know the answers as to what happened as opposed to waiting for the legal system, which doesn't always tell you in reality guilty or innocent. That's just what's determined in the legal system. Sometimes people don't pursue charges, things like that. You got to find out what exactly happened from your standpoint, and maybe they did, and that tells me that they did react quickly. I think it's a good move for Tennessee.
Yeah, the report read ugly, and I don't think there was much of a choice. So there was the Bryce Thompson situation a year ago, but it lacked the accusations of violence. It had the violent threats. So that would be the difference there. With Emmett Gooden, it was swift action that was probably needed.
In terms of that 85-man scholarship limit, that they're still over, but they're getting closer to it, defensive back Brandon Davis, not used much. Most people probably know his name because he was involved in a bizarre gunshot wound story a few months back. He has announced that he's transferring. So in terms of people wondering, can they get down to the 85-man limit, slowly but surely they're getting there. All right, the Southeastern Conference's athletic directors got together this week. The next couple of segments we'll talk about what came from those meetings, what the takeaways were, scheduling options, everything else. And then later in the show, kind of playing off what we touched on here with Pope and Gooden, I want to talk about impact players on Tennessee's roster. Who are they? How many are there? How many guys force opposing coaches to stay up doing a little extra work to game plan for them? It's an interesting question. Come on back on the Sports Source. We'll discuss it all.